Chapter 2152. Irene was dumbfounded. Crushing her beam saber with pure strength, what kind of shocking strength was that? He was like a monster with unlimited potential. And the most shocking thing was that Dustless's calm expression did not change at all. On his cheeks, these words were clearly written, "I didn't use my full strength." "You think you're strong?" Wuchen laughed involuntarily when he saw Irene's disbelieving and astonished appearance, and he spoke words that struck Irene extremely hard. "I might as well tell you directly. Among the enemies that I've fought, you absolutely belong to the weakest group of people. You. Don't be too arrogant." Irene's pretty face showed a hint of anger. She always felt that Dustless was ridiculing her. "So what if you're strong? Why are you always so narrow-minded?" Dustless looked straight at Irene. If he knew what she was thinking, he would definitely feel wronged. Speaking the truth, he would also be considered narrow-minded. "It's not that easy to take me down." Irene looked at Dustless with a slightly smug look. A transparent pink light gradually appeared on the surface of her body. Following that, an emerald green protective cover suddenly covered Irene's body. She was isolated from the outside world and was in a special domain. Being wrapped in this mysterious protective cover, Irene felt more at ease. A faint smile bloomed on her face. "At least before you break my domain of will, I will never admit defeat." Domain of will. Hearing that, Wuchen took a closer look at the rain shield. After a long while, he said disdainfully, "It's just a piece of broken paper. Why do they have to give it an elegant name, random field? It's really disgusting. It's just a piece of scrap paper that will break with a touch." Pretending to be cultured, vulgar to the extreme. "You bastard, watch your words." Irene looked at Dustless in a frenzy. She almost fell down because of these words. A broken piece of paper defense. It was simply nonsense. Irene's phenomenon device was of a higher level than everyone in AST. There was no doubt that the so-called domain of will was stronger. Now that Dustless said that it was a broken piece of paper defense that would break with a touch, how could she not be angry? This stinky man really looked down on others. "Why don't we make a bet?" Irene looked deeply at Dustless and said in a deep voice, "If you can defeat this random field, then I will be yours from now on. If you can't defeat my defense, then you and I, Nightblade God Toka, will have to leave with me." "Ha!" Hearing this, he was stunned at first. Then he looked at Irene with an idiotic expression and said disdainfully, "Silly girl, you think too highly of yourself. You think you can match up to the two of us? Could it be that you're the reincarnation of a deity? Are you that valuable?" Irene was incomparably embarrassed. Only now did she abruptly recall the situation she was in. From now on, she was Dustless's servant. P.S. 3,000 flowers plus updates, 3,000 rewards plus updates, 1,000 reviews plus updates, 500 automatic subscriptions plus updates. "You're still too weak to fight with me." Dustless was secretly pleased. A victorious look surged between his brows. Now, he could confirm that Irene was really loyal to him. She had swallowed her anger, which indirectly showed that she was desperate. P.S. 3,000 fresh flowers plus updates, 3,000 rewards plus updates, 1,000 comments plus updates, 500 automatic subscriptions plus updates. Chapter 2155. Toka is right this time. This woman is a vixen. A vixen with a belly full of evil tricks. She's always thinking of ways to frame me. Dustless agreed with Toka's point of view. Toka Kurumi also felt helpless at times. If Itsuka Kodori and the others were here, it would be inevitable for them to scold Dustless. However, it was worth mentioning that Rain Murasame tested her favorability with Toka Kurumi. Toka Kurumi's favorability towards Dustless was no longer 0. It had risen to 30%. Although it was still pitifully low, it was much better than 0. Shameless vixen, don't be too proud. Toka Kurumi stared at Toka Kurumi. Although she was stubborn, her eyes were shining. She seemed to be very tempted by Toka Kurumi's suggestion. Seriously, this little girl is too naive. She fell for my trick so easily. I was just saying it casually. I didn't expect her to really fall for me. Where did Dustless get his charm from? How could he make Toka Kurumi fall for him? God is unfair. Toka Kurumi couldn't help but mumble. She stared at Dustless deeply and then glanced at Toka Kurumi. She was secretly unhappy. In fact, Dustless did not do anything to Toka Kurumi. At least, that was what Toka Kurumi thought. However, there was a saying that one should never guess a girl's thoughts. Unknowingly, Toka Kurumi was already dead set on Dustless. Is she really going to imitate me? This little girl always goes against me. I'm just purposely attacking her. If she really imitates me, wouldn't that be letting Dustless take advantage of her? Tokasaki Kurumi had a strange expression on her face as she stared at the Yado god Toka, whose eyes were filled with desire. She couldn't help but feel a little regretful. She wanted to trap Dustless on purpose. It would be best if Yado Dustless became the target of everyone's criticism. She wanted to wash away the humiliation that Dustless brought to her. But what if Yado god Toka decided to seduce Dustless? Wouldn't that be a huge loss? After all, Shizaki Kurumi's plan was to get all the elves to find trouble with Dustless. Even if he was unhappy, he wouldn't do anything to the elves. But if Toka really wanted to seduce Dustless, it would be unavoidable for Dustless to get intimate with him. However, Tokasaki Kurumi did not expect Toka to be so naive. Tokasaki Kurumi was simply playing with fire. Tokasaki Kurumi did not expect Toka to be so naive. Cough cough cough. Thinking of this, Tokasaki Kurumi coughed twice in an attempt to stop Yado god Toka. But just as she was about to speak, Yado god Toka left in a huff. Humph, don't think that you're the only one who knows how to flirt. If you know it, so do I. In fact, I can do it better than you. Leaving these words behind, Yuso Toka disappeared without a trace, leaving behind Tokasaki Kurumi, who could only stare blankly. TSK, serves you right. Looking at the stunned Tokasaki Kurumi, Dustless laughed at her misfortune. Chapter 2156. Naturally, Tokasaki Kurumi wanted to cry. It was exactly what she had imagined. After following Tokasaki to her bedroom, she found that Tokasaki was trying on some see-through pajamas. The ones that looked more seductive were the ones that Tokasaki Kurumi was trying on. Damn it. After trying for so long, I've already worn out my mouth. In the end, it was Dustless who took advantage of it. I won't allow this to happen. Tokasaki Kurumi stomped her feet. Tokasaki Kurumi didn't know whether to laugh or cry when she saw Tokasaki Kurumi talking about her while changing her pajamas. She was just trying to provoke Tokasaki Kurumi, but she didn't expect the naive Tokasaki Kurumi to believe her. She even swore that she would defeat her. This pure elf's thinking is too simple, even childish. She really can't be judged with common sense. Tokasaki Kurumi sighed in regret. Actually, it wasn't just Tokasaki Kurumi who was depressed. Everyone else was depressed as well. DM Corporation. The highest floor of a skyscraper that pierced through the clouds was extremely luxurious. The expensive decorations in the outside world were just ordinary things here. This was the office of Isaac Ray Pelham Westcott. As one of the higher-ups and even the controller of DM, it was normal for him to receive such treatment. At this moment, he was in a dilemma. There was no other reason other than the blonde girl in front of him. Where is she? Did you say that you failed? You've disappointed me, Irene. Way Scott looked at the injured Irene with dissatisfaction in his eyes. There was even a bone-piercing chill in the depths of his eyes. It was fine that he couldn't take care of Dushless, but he couldn't even bring Tokisaki Kurumi back. How could Westcott not be angry? After all, the elves were his prey. No. Irene shook her head. Wrapped in bandages, Irene shook her head. Her attitude was colder and harsher than before. Even though a cold glint flashed past Westcott's eyes, she caught it clearly. After all, she wasn't an ordinary person. Oh, so you've succeeded. Where is she? Hearing this, Westcott's lifeless eyes suddenly shot out a cold light. This, Irene sneered in her heart, but her expression didn't change. She said, I was seriously injured. That Dushless was too strong. I only caught, Princess, but because my injuries were too serious, I didn't bring her back. I just hid, Princess, in an abandoned warehouse near the battle. Not bad. You've done well. It's been hard on you, Irene. Way Scott smiled and nodded, his expression changing faster than one could flip a book. Bring me to see the princess. Finally getting a test subject, Westcott was very excited. He couldn't wait to look at Irene, his hopeful eyes clearly saying, hurry up and bring me to see the Night Blade God Toka. Understood. Irene nodded solemnly, but the corners of her mouth raised into an imperceptible cold arc. Chapter 2157. As a confident and successful man, betrayal was a taboo, especially for a man like Westcott who had a strong sense of control. The higher he stood at the top of the pyramid, the more he was afraid of failure. He could not tolerate even a speck of sand in his eyes, not to mention that he had been plotted against by his subordinates. This was worse than death. Before I destroy you, I have a question you must answer. Suddenly realizing something, Westcott's expression was extremely gloomy. He looked straight at the girl's perfect face and held back his anger. He gritted his teeth and asked, what's the reason? Why did you betray me? Is there someone more worthy of your loyalty than me? Well, it's very simple. Irene looked at Westcott with contempt and said calmly, actually, I feel that my wings have hardened and I don't need you anymore. Is that okay? Unknowingly, Irene had also been infected by Dushless and her words had become infuriating. Pfft. Hearing this, Westcott immediately spat out a mouthful of blood and looked at Irene angrily. What kind of ridiculous reason was this? What did she mean by, my wings have hardened and I don't need you anymore? Was there a more arrogant reason than this? This was simply a slap in the face and disdain. No one has ever dared to speak to me like this. You are the first, and you will also die a horrible death. Westcott roared, his handsome face twisted. Irene's words had trampled on his dignity, and the consequences were even worse than beating him up. Then I'm sorry. I was thinking that it would be best if you could commit suicide, then I wouldn't have to do it myself. After all, we are acquaintances. Irene was tit for tat, completely different from her usual quiet self. Her aura was strong and confident, and her whole body radiated a spirit that was not inferior to men. Her eyes stared straight at Westcott, occasionally flashing with undisguised contempt. It was obvious that she did not take Westcott seriously. Compared to Dushless, you are far inferior in every aspect. After pondering for a while, Irene's eyes were filled with disdain as she spoke of the instigator behind the scenes. As expected. It's that bastard. Hearing this, Westcott was furious, but he did not feel surprised. He only felt that it was ironic. He had sent Irene to assassinate Dushless and Night Sword God Toka, but in the end, his trusted subordinate had jumped ship. This was a great humiliation. Shut up. You're nothing compared to him. You're just a rat hiding in the dark. Hearing that Westcott dared to scold her boss, Irene's expression turned cold. With a flash, she appeared in front of Wei Scott without any warning. Paw! When the slap landed, a glaring, blood-red handprint appeared on Wei Scott's face. How dare you slap me? After being stunned for a moment, Westcott finally realized that he had been slapped by Aileen. He felt as if his lungs were about to explode. How aggrieved was it to be slapped by a traitor? I'm not just going to slap you. I'm going to kill you. Irene looked at Westcott expressionlessly. Her tone was filled with killing intent. Clearly, she wasn't joking. Kill me. Wei Scott sneered like a cunning wolf. His eyes glowed with a ghostly green light. You're underestimating me. If I could be killed so easily, I would have died a long time ago. Time flew, and 3 days passed in the blink of an eye. It's been so long. Why hasn't Irene returned? Could it be that she failed? That shouldn't be. Although Irene's strength is no match for mine, it's more than enough to take care of Wei Scott. In Itsuki Kotori's house, Dustless looked at the blue sky in the distance. He lowered his head and pondered. Could it be that Wei Scott still has a trump card to deal with Irene? Maybe there really is. That guy is very scheming. Itsuki Kotori suddenly interrupted. Her face was tense, and she was very cautious. She wasn't this nervous when she met the elves. That guy is not simple. He might have some tricks up his sleeve. But, there's another possibility. Itsuki Kotori suddenly changed the topic. She looked at Dustless with a gloating expression. Maybe Irene submitted to you because she wanted to buy time. Do you know what I mean? Dustless. Maybe Irene was just pretending to submit to you so that she could escape. Kotori. It's not a good habit to talk about other people behind their backs. Dustless glanced at Itsuki Kotori and said confidently. You're right. But I believe in Irene. She knows what's best for her. TSK. You're just being unreasonable. Then why don't you explain why she hasn't returned for 3 days? Itsuki Kotori chewed on her lollipop and looked at Dustless with arrogance in her eyes. Maybe it's because of an accident. Dustless shook his head. He wasn't an omniscient god. How would he know? Then, he suddenly said, but it might be as you guessed before. Irene has encountered some big trouble that she can't solve. Bang! Dustless opened his mouth and was about to say something. Suddenly, the closed door was opened by a huge force. Rain. Dustless looked at the hurried Murasame Rain with surprise. He was surprised. For a long time, Murasame Rain was the kind of extremely quiet type. She was rarely so rude. Commander, I don't know why. Shido is missing. Murasame Rain looked at Itsuki Kotori and revealed the news she just got. P.S. 3,000 fresh flowers plus more chapters, 3,000 rewards plus more chapters, 1,000 comments plus more chapters, 500 automatic subscriptions plus more chapters. Chapter 2158. Shido is missing. How is that possible? Itsuki Kotori was stunned for a moment, and then she muttered to herself in disbelief. Her delicate face turned ugly, and her delicate fists were clenched tightly. After all, Itsuki Shido was Kotori's only family, and there was no doubt about their relationship. Since they were young, Kotori's favorability toward Itsuki Shido was 100%. Missing? That's strange. Dustless was also shocked when he heard Rain Murasame's report. He carefully recalled the original plot, and he didn't remember Itsuki Shido going missing. Maybe he was kidnapped. Dustless narrowed his eyes, and said, that kid is very special, maybe he was captured alive and used. I think so too. Rain Murasame agreed with Dustless's opinion, and nodded carefully. I asked Shido's classmates, and many of them said that he was strange these days, and he seemed to be absent-minded. Damn it. Who did it? Itsuki Kodori angrily knocked on the table, and at this moment, she was like a huge barrel of gunpowder, and her anger could be felt no matter how far away she was. Not good. Rain Murasame looked at the angry Itsuki Kodori, and she was worried. If the elf's emotions were out of control, the consequences would be very serious. Even if Itsuki Kodori's spiritual power was sealed by dustless, the consequences would be unimaginable. Well, Dustless frowned slightly, and suddenly he felt that some kind of power in his body was disappearing. He couldn't help but look at the angry Itsuki Kodori, and he could feel that Itsuki Kodori's power was gradually increasing, and he was surprised. Is this spiritual power reversal? Don't worry. Dustless gently patted Itsuki Kodori's shoulder, and comforted her. Kodori, don't worry, in fact, the culprit is already out. In this world, other than AST, who else could it be? Are you saying? Hearing this, Itsuki Kodori felt a little better, and her emotions gradually calmed down. Her eyes lit up, and she sneered. You mean DM? That's right, those guys are the most suspicious. Who else but them? That kid Westcott is very interested in the power of the elves, but he hasn't given up after Irene's failure. I'm afraid he'll use other tactics, such as capturing Itoka Shido alive to threaten us into handing over the elves. Dustless shrugged and said bluntly, previously, I ordered Irene to assassinate DM's top executive, Westcott, but she hasn't returned yet. I'm afraid there's also a problem. I'm afraid it was that bastard Westcott who did it. Itsuki Kodori slammed her fist on the table with murderous intent. Her pink eyes were filled with murderous intent and filled with an ominous, sinister aura. Is there any specific information? Dustless looked at Murasame Rain. He was quite confident in the intelligence collection of Ratatoskr. Murasame Rain must have collected some evidence. There are some, but I don't understand it. Murasame Rain said helplessly, I don't know much, but I'm afraid it was done by DM. Say it. Itsuki Kodori only said one word, but whether it was Dustless or Murasame Rain, they all felt a chill. That kid is better off dead. Seeing Itsuki Kodori like this, Dustless prayed sincerely in his heart, and suddenly he felt that Itoka Shido was very annoying. Murasame Rain also looked at Itsuki Kodori a few more times, and immediately said seriously, during this period, many people saw Shido take the initiative to get into a black car. I investigated according to the license plate number, and found that although it's not from DEM, it has a lot to do with them. Humph. Sure enough, it's those guys. Hearing this, Itsuki Kodori suddenly became angry, and stood up angrily. It seemed that she was going to find trouble directly. But we haven't figured out the reason yet. Even if we find them, we have no excuse. After all, Shido took the initiative to go with others. Murasame Rain was quite helpless. In addition to Shido himself, maybe it's because of other people. Don't forget, there's also a little girl that Itsuka Shido cares about very much. Dustless suddenly took a sip of tea, and immediately said calmly, I remember that Itsuka Shido has a little sister, seems to be called Chongong Shina, seems to be from DEM. As long as they use her as a threat, Itsuka Shido will definitely take the bait. Boom. Perhaps because of the reverse flow of spiritual power, Itsuki Kodori's strength became a lot stronger, and she directly smashed the table, and said angrily, those guys are really despicable, damn it. Although it's just a guess, it's not impossible. Shudao is such a sentimental person. Murasame Rain also sighed. She knew what kind of person Itsuka Shido was. As long as the other party used Chongong Shina as a threat, Itsuka Shido would definitely take the bait, and he would be the kind of person who would never back down. It just so happens that I'm also going to DM. I'm also looking forward to seeing what that kid has. Dustless's eyes were cold, and he smiled sinisterly, although I don't know why Irene didn't come back, I'm sure that it's Westcott who did it. He's just an ant, but he has guts. After all, Irene had already followed him, and Dustless naturally couldn't be indifferent when she went missing. Itsuka Kotori took a deep breath, trying to calm down her bad mood, and said seriously, "That's good, Rain, you go and prepare now, and bring me all the information about DM." "Wait a moment, Commander." Murasame Rain nodded and left. She couldn't help but mourn for Wei Scott. If he offended these two, she was afraid that his end would be extremely miserable. P.S. 3,000 flowers plus updates, 3,000 rewards plus updates, 1,000 comments plus updates, 500 automatic subscriptions plus updates. Chapter 2159. She knew Itsuka Kotori's temper. Even if she hurt herself, she wouldn't hurt Itsuka Shido. Otherwise, this little girl would go berserk. In the original work, it was because Toshisaki Kurumi injured Itsuka Shido that Itsuka Kotori went berserk. Her spiritual energy reversed and she turned into a spirit. She displayed her powerful strength and defeated Toshisaki Kurumi, almost killing him in the end. After dealing with that arrogant idiot, it's about time to leave. Dustless muttered to himself as he looked at the warm sun outside the window. The idiot he was talking about was Wei Court. Dustless stretched his back and squinted his eyes in enjoyment. Although this kind of life was comfortable and unrestrained, it gradually became boring as time passed. No matter what it was, whether it was people or things, as time passed, the feelings would fade away. The interest in the beginning would turn into boredom. Leave after success. Itsuka Kotori looked over. Even though Dustless was muttering to himself, she could still hear him clearly. She couldn't help but ask strangely, "Are you going to leave? Do you still have a home? All good things must come to an end." Dustless nodded and looked at the dazed Itsuka Kotori's face. He smiled and said, "What's wrong? You've never been good to me, so why are you looking so pitiful now? Can't bear to part with me?" Dustless got closer to Itsuka Kotori and looked at her beautiful face with a teasing expression. Humph. After hearing Dustless's words, Itsuka Kotori's unnatural expression quickly disappeared. She said with disdain, "Who would like a lecherous man like you? Stop dreaming. Do you think I'm a glutton like Toshiaki? That I can't even find my way around because of some soybean flour bread?" Dustless didn't get angry. Instead, he smiled as if Itsuka Kotori wasn't talking about him. "You're really heartless. To think I wanted to take you with me. Of course." Hearing this, the joy in Itsuka Kotori's eyes disappeared instantly. Her expression changed at lightning speed. She looked at Wu-chin with disdain and snorted. "There are countless people who like me. Even if I wait for a few decades, it won't be your turn. This girl really likes to push her luck." Dustless didn't know whether to laugh or cry. He had seen many narcissistic and arrogant people, but it was rare to see someone as arrogant as Itsuka Kotori. Dong dong dong. At this time, the sound of high-heeled shoes was heard again. Wu-chin and Kotori looked over and saw Murasame Rain's voice. "You're here already. Rain, you've collected all information about Wei Court." Itsuka Kotori saw Rain Murasame, who left for less than 2 minutes, and ordered in a low voice, "Go and check it again. I want all the details. Wei Court is very mysterious. Everything about him must be, looks like it's not necessary." Before Itsuka Kotori could finish, Dustless interrupted her. He saw the anxiety in Murasame Rain's eyes and shrugged, "I'm afraid there's a new problem. I just changed my clothes and was about to go out when I saw a letter at the door." Murasame Rain put the letter on the table, and the sender was Wei Court. "That guy wrote a letter." Dustless curled his lips and said with disdain, "He's just a small fry. Why would he write a letter? Idiot." Murasame Rain and Itsuka Kotori looked at Dustless speechlessly. They didn't know what this guy was thinking. "What did it have to do with you?" Ahem. Noticing that the two women were looking at him strangely, Wu-chin coughed awkwardly. "I mean, the content of this letter is probably a challenge letter or a threat letter." That stinky bug is about to lose his life, but he still wants to play this game. Isn't he asking for humiliation? He's asking to be humiliated. I'd like to see what kind of tricks Wakehort is going to play. Itsuka Kotori opened the envelope and took out the letter. She squinted her eyes and looked at it carefully for a while. Bang! A few minutes later, Itsuka Kotori angrily slammed the table and said with hatred, "That guy really caught Shido and asked me to give him all the elves, or else what?" Murasame Rain asked nervously. Seeing Itsuka Kotori's pale face, she vaguely guessed something. "Do you still need to say it?" "Of course it's to kill them." Wuchen gulped down a mouthful of tea. There was a faint evil smile at the corner of his mouth. He was not worried at all. Instead, he took pleasure in other people's misfortune. He could not help but laugh secretly. If Itoka Shido can be killed, I will be merciful and grant Wayscott a complete corpse. In fact, he didn't like Itsuka Shido for a long time. This guy didn't have any power at all, but he still wanted to save the elves. Wasn't he looking for death? If it wasn't for Dushless, this guy would have been killed already. Now that Wakehort was willing to help Dustless get rid of this burden, he couldn't ask for more. It's the same as Dustless's guess. Murasame Rain took the letter in Itsuka Kotori's hand and looked at it carefully. She frowned and said, "He really used Shido. No wonder he left with Wakeport's people. But didn't Shido think that this must be Wakeport's trap?" "I told you." Dustless was quite calm as if he already expected this. "Itsuka Shido is too kind. He used the emotional card a little bit, and that guy will definitely be fooled. It's not that Wakehort is too smart, it's just that Itsuka Shido is too naive. Without power, he always wanted to do things beyond his ability. It was only a matter of time before he was unlucky. P.S. 3,000 flowers plus updates, 3,000 rewards plus updates, 1,000 comments plus updates, 500 automatic subscriptions plus updates. Chapter 2160. It's too late to say anything now. Don't worry about these useless things. What's important now is how to save my brother and your Irene. Itsuka Kotori looked at Dustless and said seriously. Especially when she mentioned, your Irene, she purposely emphasized the word, your Irene. Obviously, she was reminding Dustless not to get involved. Although Itsuka Kotori wasn't happy with what Dustless said before, she could only grit her teeth and admit it. After all, this was the truth. Itsuka Shido was too childish when it came to relationships. After being tricked and used slightly, even if he knew that it was a trap, he would still persevere and fall into it. The current situation was like that. He clearly knew that Walcott wasn't a good person, but he still fell into the trap. Where is the place of the transaction? Dustless didn't want to argue with Itsuka Kotori and looked at Rain Murasame. Their company, DM in our company. Murasame Ling Yin's face was ugly. This was like a sheep entering the tiger's den. What if we reject Wakeport's offer? Itsuka Kotori frowned and asked. Rain Murasame went silent for a while and read the letter carefully. She shook her head and said, "It's not detailed. He just asked us to take Toka and the others to DEM's company to sell Irene and Shido. We can only follow Wakeport's arrangement for now." After hesitating, Itsuka Kotori nodded. For her, Itsuka Shido's safety was more important than anything else. "I reject." But Dustless looked coldly at Itsuka Kotori and said seriously, "Toka and the others aren't goods. You want to trade them?" "I reject, no one." "You." Hearing this, Itsuka Kotori was enraged. "Are you out of your mind? If you reject, not only will Shido die, even Irene won't be able to escape Wakeport's torture. He hates traitors." Itsuka Kotori took a deep breath and said in a low voice, "I know Wayscott quite well. That guy is definitely a despicable person. The reason he didn't mention what would happen if they rejected him in the letter is probably to torture them slowly. Is that so? So what? Dustless took a sip of tea and said coldly, I've done a lot of bad things in my life, but no matter what, I've always had a clear conscience. I've never regretted my actions. If you want me to trade the 10 incense with someone else, dream on. You're a blockhead. Itsuki Kotori shouted angrily. She looked at Dustless's expressionless face and felt helpless. She had no choice but to mediate. I'm only giving them the 10 incense temporarily. Do you think I'm abandoning the elves? Even if you agree, I won't. Itsuki Kotori's job was to protect the elves. How could she hand the elves over to Weiss Court? Absolutely impossible. The reason why he did this was because he wanted to redeem Itoka Shido and the others, and then find a way to rescue Toka and the others. I still refuse. Wuchin shrugged his shoulders. His unyielding attitude made Itsuki Kotori extremely depressed. She roared, Do you want Irene to be tortured to death? Just watch on helplessly. Was he going to leave her to die? I remember that Irene has already joined you. I didn't say that I'm going to leave her to die. Don't accuse me. Dustless shook his head mysteriously. His eyes emitted a scarlet murderous aura. He looked at Murasame Rain and asked, Do you know the location of DM's company? DM has a lot of industries, and the important companies are hidden in the dark. But in order to facilitate this transaction, Weiss Court told us the location of the meeting. That's enough. I'll do this transaction. Hearing this, Dustless smiled. With the detailed location, why would he worry about not being able to destroy Weiss Court? Dustless didn't like him for a long time. That kid will definitely die, especially since he dared to capture his people. As for Go Shido, Dustless was too lazy to manage him. If possible, he didn't mind finding a suitable opportunity to get rid of Go Shido. This kid was always a burden. If he continued to be with him, maybe he would cause some big problems. You finally agreed. Seeing Dustless's confident look, Itsuki Kotori thought that he agreed to hand over Toka and the others temporarily. She immediately took a sip of her coffee and smiled. I didn't expect that the blockhead would finally be enlightened. You misunderstood me. Dustless glanced at Itsuki Kotori and said coldly, I plan to go alone and kill all those people and get Irene. As for handing over Toka, I'll say it again. Dream on. I've said it before, I don't want to live a grand life. I just want to have a clear conscience. Pfft. Itsuki Kotori's chest rolled, and she spat out all the coffee. She looked at Dustless angrily. Why didn't this guy understand what she meant? He was only temporarily handing 10 fragrance and the others over to Waistcott to stabilize the situation. He would then find an opportunity to snatch them back. However, Dustless was incomparably stubborn at this moment. He was completely one-track minded and did not know how to be flexible. That little girl trusts me a lot. If I hand her over to Wei Court, how do you expect me to face her in the future? Dustless asked calmly. Although his tone was light, it was firm. Not to mention, Dustless sneered and said, that idiot Westcott actually dares to bargain with me. He doesn't even know what kind of existence his enemy is. Send him to his death. Destroy that bullsh TDM company along with him. Dustless's tone was extremely calm. Itsuki Kotori and Murasame Rain looked at each other. Hearing Dustless's words, their scalps went numb. DM company had thousands of employees. Was this guy going to kill them all? The two girls stared at Dustless. Suddenly, they realized that they were wrong. Dustless may seem like a gentle and quiet person, but deep down, he was a demon king who killed without batting an eyelid. P.S. 3,000 fresh flowers plus updates, 3,000 rewards plus updates, 100 reviews plus updates, 500 automatic subscriptions plus updates. Irene, the reason why he wants to kill you is that if the elves disappear one day in the future, you, the strongest magician and former ally, will become the biggest obstacle. This mysterious figure hit the nail on the head. He also planned to do so. After the elves disappear, Irene would be redundant. It would be best if she died. I see. Hearing this, Irene understood and nodded in agreement. She smiled bitterly and said, "That's right. If the elves disappear, my value will be greatly reduced. I will even become a threat." "But you are," Irene's mind buzzed. She suddenly felt that this voice was familiar. A young man's figure appeared in her mind. "You are Lord Dustless." Dustless? Waycoat looked as if he had seen a ghost when he heard this. His face drooped and became gloomy. Towards Dustless, Wayscott had always harbored reverence in his heart. He wasn't an elf, but he had a strength that was even more terrifying than an elf. Waycoat had a love-hate relationship with Dustless. He loved Dustless' powerful strength, but he hated Dustless for being too treacherous. With just a few words, he made Ellen betray him. If it wasn't for Waycoat's intelligence, he might have been killed by Ellen. But there is nothing to worry about. Waycoat was relieved after thinking about it. He said calmly, "This secret room uses the most advanced technology. Even if I set it up as a precaution, the elves will not be able to break in." How can a vulgar person like you understand my master's strength? You are just a frog at the bottom of a well. How laughable. Irene took the opportunity to mock him. "Is that so? Then why doesn't he come in?" Waycoat laughed sinisterly. "If he can come in, I will stand there and let him kill me. I promise I will not resist." Boom, boom, boom. However, as soon as he finished speaking, a deafening sound swept across the room. Endless shock waves spread out. It was so strong that people could not open their eyes. Then, a blinding light shone in. "Look! I have come in openly. Shouldn't you be standing there to die?" The Grim Reaper's voice echoed in Westcott's ears. He ignored the piercing pain in his eyes from the scorching sun and forcefully opened them. A glowing figure stood in front of Westcott, tall and straight like a mountain. "Waycoat, right? Give me your neck. I have not killed anyone for a long time. I have specially come to send you to heaven. P.S. 3,000 fresh flowers plus updates, 3,000 rewards plus updates, 1,000 comments plus updates, 500 automatic subscriptions plus updates." He was beaten up by the angry Wayscott. P.S. 3,000 flowers plus updates, 3,000 rewards plus updates, 1,000 reviews plus updates, 500 automatic subscriptions plus updates. Chapter 2163. Bang! 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 Wayscott was like an angry lion. Dustless could not afford to offend him, but that did not mean he could not afford to offend Ido Shido. Wayscott laughed bitterly and beat him up without hesitation. Poochie! 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 After a few seconds, Ido Shido spat out a few mouthfuls of blood. His face was red and purple, and there were fist marks all over his body. He looked extremely miserable. Although Wayscott did not dare to kill Ido Shido directly, he still inflicted the greatest pain on his body. "You bastard, why did you hit me? The one who punched you in the leg was that guy, right?" Ido Shido was still in a daze, but after Wayscott's beating, his mind suddenly became very clear. He looked at Wayscott angrily, and his mind was filled with hundreds of thousands of "what the f***ck. What, you don't like it?" Wayscott sneered, and his handsome face was full of arrogance. "I don't like you, okay? Can't I hit you to vent my pain? You dare to talk back? Paw! Paw! Paw!" At the end of his sentence, Wayscott gave him a few more slaps. Ito Shido's mouth was crooked, and blood mixed with teeth fell out. It was as miserable as it could be. It hurts. Ito Shido screamed. His face was swollen and bruised, and he looked like a pig's head. His eyes were also punched a few times, and the fist marks were black, like a panda's. Ito Shido, didn't hit you. What's the point of bullying me? If you have the guts, go beat up someone else. Ito Shido shouted angrily. Being beaten up by Wei Scott for no reason, no matter how good his temper was, he was still furious. Dustless hit you, and you hit him if you have the guts. What's the point of bullying me? You still don't like it? Interesting. Wei Scott was shocked, but it only lasted for a moment. He looked at Ito Shido with even more anger and cursed, that Dustless looked down on me, and now you, a piece of trash, dare to look down on me. You deserve a beating. Bang bang bang. Thinking of this, Wei Scott kicked Ito Shido twice more. He was extremely cunning and purposely chose the softest part of his abdomen to attack, causing Ito Shido to grit his teeth in pain. Why is this brat so tough? Dustless, who was expressionless on the side, was actually laughing in his heart. At the same time, he was secretly speechless. It seems that the protagonists of every world are all thick-skinned and extremely durable. Pooh! In the end, Itsuka Shido spat out a mouthful of blood and fainted. What a pity. He's still breathing. This Westcott has a pig's brain. Can't you just give him a stab? Fight my ass. Dustless cursed inwardly, but on the surface, he was filled with righteous indignation. He looked at Westcott furiously and rebuked, "How dare you bully Sherdao like this? I'll make sure you die without a complete corpse." Hee hee, are you sad? Westcott looked at Dustless with interest. When he saw that Dustless wanted to tear him into pieces, he was elated. Chapter 2165. After hearing such a perfect plan from me, this guy should be disappointed. Will Coate scrutinized Dustless, trying to find a flaw on his face. However, he was destined to be disappointed. All along, Dustless's expression didn't change. He was like a piece of lifeless ice, silent and uncommunicative. It was as if everything had nothing to do with him. You're the one who should be disappointed, idiot. Of all the people, you actually chose AST to work for you. Are you retarded? After a moment of silence, Dustless's face showed a mocking expression. You, good boy, I've already captured the elves, and you still dare to talk to me like this? Aren't you afraid that I'll kill all of them? Will Coate threatened loudly, his words were filled with madness, and it seemed like he was really going to kill him. Do you see that? Pointing at the AST members flying over from afar, Will Coate laughed, each of them has elves in their hands, what are you going to use to fight me? You don't know what's good for you. Looking closely, he saw the AST members flying over, each of them carrying elves. Something doesn't seem right. Will Coate suddenly realized something and muttered to himself, puzzled. If the elves were tied up in chains, it would be understandable, but the strange thing was that the little hands of Yamazaki Toka and the others took the initiative to hold on to the AST members. Especially when the elves were talking and laughing with the AST members, it was simply blinding to Will Coate's dog eyes. Strange, when did the elves start to be so obedient? Will Coate asked with a frown, his eyes flickered, and immediately guessed, could it be that Tokiichi Origami and the others used some trick to deceive the elves? Is that why they are so peaceful and friendly? All along, the elves had been synonymous with cruelty, extremely unfriendly to humans, and even more so to AST who wanted to kill them. Now, they were so harmonious, Will Coate found it unbelievable. Anyway, no matter what, AST brought the elves over, this means that victory is in my hands. Soon, the doubts in Will Coate's heart disappeared, and he looked coldly at Dustless, and sneered, why aren't you screaming now? Come and kill me. If you dare to touch me, I'll kill one of the elves. Since there are so many of them, one more won't matter. You despicable trash. Irene and Itsuka Kotori glared at Waistcott furiously. Their eyes were burning with fire as if they wanted to burn Waistcott alive. This guy was too cunning. He wasn't strong, but he was good at scheming. I want to ask, is this your trump card? Dustless completely ignored Westcott's mockery and asked calmly, I'll give you one last chance. Show me your other trump card. You. If your trump card is just to threaten me with the 10 incense sticks. Westcott, right? You'll die a horrible death. Moreover, your so-called trump card is actually a lousy one. You're just asking for humiliation. Chapter 2166. Call you Lord. Bullshit. Without even thinking about it, Wilcourt immediately denied it. Dustless sneered, do you think I'm an idiot? This group of people is AST, the most hostile existence to elves, even more so than me. How could they be with you? AST was a special organization established to annihilate elves. They would try their best to destroy any elves they encounter. Dustless was a group of people who protected elves. How could they recognize Dustless as their boss? This joke was not funny at all. You don't believe me. Hearing that, Dustless looked at Wilcourt with a mocking expression. He then looked at Yuichi Origami and the others and said lazily, who are you calling Lord? Some idiot's head is stuffed with donkey hair. His head can't hear clearly. Let him hear it clearly. You're going too far. Hearing that, Wilcourt was furious. This bastard, as a powerhouse, did not have the bearing of a powerhouse at all. He mocked him the moment he opened his mouth. He was too willful. I advise you to be sensible. Wilcourt was too lazy to argue. He only looked at Yuichi Origami and the others with an unfriendly gaze. His eyes were flickering with a cold light, obviously warning them. However, Yuichi Origami and the others did not even look at Wilcourt. They treated this guy as a clown and directly ignored him. Lord Dustless. Under Wilcourt's incredulous gaze, Yuichi Origami and the others kneeled on one knee and looked at Dustless with a respectful expression. How is this possible? Why is AST and the organization that protects elves together? Have you all betrayed us? Wilcourt roared furiously. Looking at Yuichi Origami and the others kneeling on the ground, his eyeballs almost popped out. First, Irene betrayed him. Now, AST, who he trusted, also betrayed him. Wilcourt even wanted to die. His face was green with anger. How could he endure this? He was being played around by Dustless like an idiot. This guy, Itsuka Kotori and Irene looked at each other, and they could see the shock in each other's eyes. Dustless was able to subdue AST without them noticing. This was a method that sent chills down their spines. After all, AST was extremely hostile towards elves. Rise, all of you. Looking at the girls kneeling on one knee, Dustless revealed a gentle smile. Why did he conquer this group of arrogant girls? In fact, it was very simple. There was only one word: strength. No matter which world one was in, having the supreme power to crush a world would give one a great right to speak, and one could walk unscrupulously. Yuichi Origami was subdued by Dustless's strength and resurrected her parents. Therefore, this cold and arrogant girl submitted to him. She lowered her arrogant head and obediently followed Dustless's orders. Therefore, Dustless finally convinced the entire AST through Yuichi Origami. In the past, AST had a great battle with Dustless because of the Night Sword God Toka. Chapter 2167. Everything came to an end with AST's surrender and Wilcourt's defeat. Dustless knew that his journey in this world had come to an end. Although they did not see Walcourt's body, since this guy killed Itsuka Shido and tortured him to death, he must have a miserable ending if he was handed over to Itsuka Kotori. After all, Itsuka Kotori was a brother complex. Just as Dustless was planning when to leave, an unexpected person suddenly visited him, Meijo the Temptress. Miss Meijo the Temptress, just tell me what you want. In Itsuka Kotori's house, Dustless changed his usual teasing and poured a cup of hot tea for Meijo the Temptress. Of course, this was just for show. He knew that Meijo the Temptress hated men. Even talking to Dustless would be an insult, let alone drinking his tea. Dustless also knew that Meijo the Temptress was not a bad person. She was just an innocent little girl. It could only be said that the trauma she suffered in the past had left a shadow in her heart. However, the scene that happened next was truly beyond Dustless's expectations. Gulp gulp. Meijo the Temptress drank the tea Dustless served without saying a word. She poured herself another cup of hot tea and drank it very quickly. It seemed that she was very thirsty. Miss Meijo the Temptress, you didn't come to me to drink tea, did you? Wu-chan asked strangely. In fact, he was going to leave soon. If he could resolve the grievances, he would resolve them. He didn't expect to lure Xiao Meijo to leave this world with him. After all, he had cheated her before. Now, Wu-chan felt embarrassed when he thought about it. Are you leaving? Meijo the Temptress suddenly looked at Dustless nervously and asked very seriously, where are you going? Is it far? Hearing this, Dustless was silent for a moment. In the end, he looked at Temptress Meijo like an idiot. His speechless gaze was clearly asking Temptress Meijo, does this have anything to do with you? However, out of politeness, Dustless still said seriously, of course it's very far, but how did you know? I should have only told Xiang and the others about this. Of course it was Tobi Origami and Tobi Xiang who told me. Temptress Meijo said without hesitation, they are my very good friends. Origami Kite. Dustless frowned deeply. Only then did he remember that Night Beauty Jo was a Yuri lover, and in the original work, she was very interested in origami. None of your business. Suddenly thinking that Xiao Meijo might want to steal the girls, Dustless's attitude changed drastically. He snorted and said, I have nothing to say about this. Don't meddle in other people's business. You bastard. Temptress Meijo's mouth twitched. She secretly cursed Dustless bastard. Was she so annoying? Please pay attention to your attitude a little bit. Humph, Wu-chan just snorted coldly with an unapproachable expression. P.S. 3,000 flowers plus updates, 3,000 rewards plus updates, 1,000 evaluation votes plus updates, 500 automatic subscriptions plus updates. Chapter 2168. Temptress Meijo's small white hand slowly reached for the buttons of her dress and skillfully unbuttoned them. Then the gifts on her body fell off in the blink of an eye. Her dazzling body was clearly exposed under Dustless's eyelids. Compared with this flawless and perfect body, the bright lights in the bedroom were overshadowed. Even though Dustless was a veteran in the field of flowers and an old monster who had lived for hundreds of years, his eyes could not help but stagnate. You take off your clothes without saying anything. Wu-chan was stunned for a moment before these words came out of his mouth. Immediately, he looked at the Temptress Meijo in an extremely speechless manner. He could not help but ask, is there any relationship between you taking off your clothes and me bringing you away? Are you still a man? Unexpectedly, Temptress Meijo ignored Dustless's question and said resentfully, I'm not even wearing clothes to cover my body. Do you still have the mood to care about other problems? Can you get hard? After saying that, Temptress Meijo looked at Dustless's most important part as a man. Can't you do it? No wonder that group of beautiful girls are still virgins. Hearing this, Dustless's face suddenly turned green. In these decades, he was finally angered once. You bastard, pay attention to your words. If you dare to talk nonsense again, I won't be polite to you. Dustless was very depressed. The group of girls that Temptress Meijio was talking about was naturally Yedaoshin Shirshia and the others. Every one of them is fine. They are all virgins. It can only mean that I keep my body as pure as jade. Dustless looked at Temptress Meijio seriously and said, "You keep your body as pure as jade." Temptress Meijio's forehead darkened, and then countless crows flew past. Dustless was surrounded by beauties. There were countless beauties of different sizes. This guy actually shamelessly said that he kept his body as pure as jade. He was simply too shameless. "Let me see how thick your skin is." Temptress Meijio seemed to be really angered by Dustless. Her white hand suddenly grabbed Dustless's cheek. "This bastard's skin is so delicate. How can I endure this?" After touching it, Tempting Beauty Joe was surprised to find that Dustless's skin was extremely elastic. It was very delicate and smooth like silk. If this guy wasn't surrounded by beauties, he could really be connected to pure ice and pure jade. Blinking her eyes, she tempted Xiao Meijio to think so. "Take your hand away. How dare you offend me? I am your master. Who gave you the confidence?" Dustless's face darkened and he unceremoniously slapped away Xiao Meijio's little hand. At this moment, if Meijio looked carefully, she would be able to see the awkwardness and unnaturalness in the depths of Dustless's eyes. Meijio was so close to Dustless, and her clothes didn't cover her body. This girl was obviously deliberately adding fuel to the fire, but he was too lazy to entangle with this kind of trivial matter. He asked bluntly, "Have you finished the things that should be done?" "It has been completed. Shido has been buried. The problems that should be dealt with have been dealt with. We can leave probably tomorrow." Murasame Rain also showed a trace of expectation in her words. The earth was so big. It seemed that it was still the same. If possible, everyone wanted to explore a more vast world. After all, curiosity was human nature. P.S. 3,000 flowers plus updates, 3,000 rewards plus updates, 1,000 comments plus updates, 500 automatic subscriptions plus updates. Chapter 2169. What the hell is going on? What happened to you guys? Murasame Rain looked at Temptress Meijio strangely. It was not that she was suspicious, but at the moment, Temptress Meijio's face was really strange, sometimes blue and sometimes white, looking at Dustless angrily, as if she had suffered a lot of anger. This guy is simply too shameless. Temptress Meijio snorted coldly, and immediately told Murasame Rain all the previous causes, gnashing her teeth and accusing Dustless's crimes. "You mean," Dustless said, "that he is pure and chaste?" After a while, Murasame Rain looked at Dustless as if she had seen a ghost, as if she had discovered a new continent. What's with your eyes?" Dustless's old face was slightly red, looking at Murasame Rain angrily, and scolded angrily, "Isn't it? Have I done anything out of line?" This is not true, but Murasame Rain finally saw the realm of shamelessness. Dustless sealed the power of Itsuka Kotori and Yado Toho and others, and the way was to kiss. However, this bastard said that he was pure and chaste, which was simply too shameless. "I know what you are thinking." Dustless saw through Murasame Rain's mind at a glance, and said domineeringly, "I sacrificed my body and kissed them, do you think it's for myself?" Wrong. It was a big mistake, a big mistake. I'm doing this to save the world. Poochie. Hearing this, Murasame Rain just drank the herbal tea, and all of it was spurted out. She looked at Dustless with amazement. What kind of strange experience did this guy have? He could be so shameless to such an invincible level. My ability to twist words and force logic has reached perfection. You can even make a dead person come back to life. Moving her mouth, Murasame Rain tried to refute Dustless, but she was speechless. She was depressed to find that even if Dustless was unreasonable, what he said was really right. Dustless sealed the elves. To some extent, he saved the world. After all, the elves often went berserk, and it might involve innocent people. The Eurasian air disaster decades ago took the lives of hundreds of millions of people. Forget it. Bickering with this guy is just asking for humiliation. Looking at Dustless with hidden bitterness, Murasame Ling Yin was relieved. She immediately frowned and looked at the seductress Dustless. The departure that Mr. Dustless said is to leave this world forever. Are you sure you want to follow him? Follow me. Dustless snorted in dissatisfaction and said awkwardly, this ambitious girl just wants to steal my woman. Puff, that's right. You have a rival in love. Murasame Ling Yin heard Dustless's ridicule, and instantly smiled like a blooming flower. She secretly gave a thumbs up to the seductress Dustless. She was sure that if other people dared to say this, they would have already been cut into pieces by Dustless, and there would not even be a corpse left. The migratory birds resting on the branches all spread their wings and flew high into the sky. There was no other reason. This ear-piercing scream was simply too frightening. P.S. 3,000 fresh flowers plus more chapters, 3,000 rewards plus more chapters, 1,000 comments plus more chapters, 500 automatic subscriptions plus more chapters. He actually dared to mock her for being flat-chested. He was really tired of living. Claire's gaze was fixed on Dustless. She sincerely felt that this handsome face was too calm, like a pool of stagnant water, bottomless. At the same time, when Claire looked at Dustless, Dustless's closed eyes suddenly opened, revealing scarlet eyes. The scarlet magatama slowly rotated like a blood-red gem, dazzling. The moment she met Dustless's eyes, Claire felt uneasy from the bottom of her heart. Scarlet, is it? Sit down for me. Dustless ordered calmly. A strange ripple appeared in his eyes, and a majestic eye power was slightly activated. Ha ha ha, as if she had suddenly heard a funny joke, Claire held her stomach and laughed. She pointed at Dustless and laughed hysterically. Boy, are you crazy? That's my contracted elf. How dare you order him around? Ignorant. Claire's face was full of disdain. Scarlet had signed a contract with her, and Dustless actually wanted to order him around. Was it really because Scarlet was a pet cat? Did he think he could order him around just because he wanted to? Moreover, even if it was a pet cat, there were the type that strangers could not approach. You white, looking at Dustless, Claire was about to mock him, but when she saw the red creature in Dustless's arms, her words stopped abruptly. She was stunned on the spot. How is this possible? How can Scarlet be lying in your arms? Heavens! That's my contracted elf. Claire was stunned. Scarlet had a serene expression and was enjoying being hugged by Dustless. His expression was very infatuated, and he rubbed his furry head against Dustless's palm from time to time, enjoying Dustless's caress. It's just a cat. What's there to be proud of? Dustless glanced at Claire indifferently and said sarcastically, in front of my eye power, no matter what contract you have, this little guy is still my pet, right? Scarlet couldn't speak, so he could only nod flatteringly. Bastard, give me back my Scarlet. Claire suddenly screamed when she remembered Scarlet's importance. What a sharp voice. Miss, is there anything I can help you with? At this moment, an unexpected voice suddenly sounded. Dustless and Claire were both stunned. They rushed to the source of the voice at the same time, and a handsome young man appeared. The newcomer was quite handsome, about 16 or 17 years old. He wore a thick robe and looked at Claire curiously. Could this kid be God Feng Zhao? What kind of wind blew this kid here? Is it the protagonist's halo? He really came at the wrong time. Dustless looked at this person in surprise, and this person's name suddenly popped up in his mind. P.S. 3,000 flowers plus updates, 3,000 rewards plus updates, 1,000 comments plus updates, 500 automatic subscriptions plus updates. You're tuning into the Journey of the Soul YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.